water and in the food that cause them. I've had Crohn's disease since I was 16. I have a light case, but I know people who suffer with MS. I know people who suffer with rheumatoid arthritis and Crohn's disease combined, because sometimes people get two autoimmune diseases, quite often actually. And 1 in 9 women in this country will get an autoimmune disease. And we know that it's due to environmental concerns. Big Pharma makes tons of money off of autoimmune diseases. The prescription that I used to take was $300 a month. Now I just eat right and take care of myself.
And you feel better, don't you?
My rent. I feel fantastic. It's really about stress. And so what I wanted to ask Dr. Falkov is what her advice is, as somebody in the medical community who speaks out about these issues so bravely, is what her advice would be to the millions of Americans who are listening right now who have autoimmune diseases.
Well, I think there's a lot more coming out now about the possibility of viral infections triggering these conditions, that it's not just some unknown occurrence where your body turns on itself. There's an initial insult to the body that causes it to react against itself. When it's fighting off something else, something goes amiss with the immune system, and then it turns on itself. But it's not just some random thing. And it could be a toxic exposure. It could be viral. There are a lot of different things that can take place. What I recommend for people to do, it's so easy and simple. If you keep a diary, how do you feel before you eat, after you eat, before you do different things? Keep it for a few weeks. You'll see a pattern. You'll see what makes you feel better and what makes you feel worse. And you want to find a physician that's going to pay attention to all of this information, that's going to take a thorough history and examine where you live, what's in your environment, new carpet, wallpaper, off-gassing from particle board cabinets. You've got to examine everything and get the picture, and you can clean things up, and you can have a miracle.
By the way, I want to thank you publicly for the help you did and offered to my sister over the past couple of months as well with her situation.
My pleasure to help.
She's doing very, very well now.
Good.
Another thing we don't have to worry about right now.
Good.
Next up, we go to New Hampshire. Gary, first-time caller. Go ahead, Gary.
Hello, George. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm a big fan. I've just been listening a little over a year now, and I've really like what you're doing for the public. Thank you, and I hope you're being paid well.
We'll get there eventually.
That was very deft.
I have a question actually for you, George, and for Richard. I've got a theory, or I just want to throw it out there and kind of see what you think of it. I've combined a couple of things I've heard from several different guests. Number one, I've heard several guests mention that they think the ancient Mayans may have been visited by the ETs, and that's how they obtained so much astrological knowledge, and maybe even that's how they've come up with the date in 2012. And then I've also heard several guests, including Richard, state that they feel we're very close to getting some actual disclosure from our government through President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So what my theory is, if the ETs did in fact visit, maybe they've continually been visiting those in power, and maybe there is a correlation there with 2012, and because 2012 is rapidly approaching, the government now feels that they need to have some disclosure so that they can prepare us for whatever's going to transpire in 2012.
Interesting. Your take, Richard?
Well, on the Mayan thing, remember, if I'm right, if the human race is a lot older and more interesting than we have been...
And Cremo would agree with you.
Told about, yes. Well, there's data. Cremo and his partner have data.
They have data.
The Mayans, in my model, simply were looking at an archive, a sacred set of books that told them there are these cycles. Bad things happen at the end of these cycles because of a physics. Set up society, set up pyramids, set up a structure to warn your great descendants that cycles come to an end and they need to pay attention. Now, that to me makes so much more sense than they figure this all out themselves, because there are parts of this you can't figure out. Where the science comes in is I'm trying to measure whether those pyramids actually resonate with the torsion field. And when you come to Tempe, you're going to see slides, data that show an extraordinary effect, which tells me the Maya got their information from somewhere, and my bet would be it may be more likely relatives than aliens.
I never have asked you about your take on Zecharia Sitchin's theories of the Anunnaki coming here and seeding us. What do you think?
Well, I think Zach is right and wrong. The Sumerian priesthood was the first CIA. What they did is they hid all the hyperdimensional stuff under all those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Anunnaki are simply us. What do human beings do to other human beings? Best of all, they lie to them, right?
Well, not all of us.
No, but that's what we as a species tend to do a lot.
By the way, I'll have you back on Monday. I'm lying.
So the Anunnaki story that comes from the cuneiform tablets, to me, rings like relatives, cousins. Remember, Vatican brothers and sisters, who basically a faction of them decided to play their trump card, which was to claim to the Sumerians they were gods, and they in fact were relatives. But they had high technology, and remember, we have a lot of television series. Stargate comes to mind. What's the preeminent occurring arc of Stargate, the series? That guys will pretend to be gods, will enslave other sentient races, and they really aren't. Well, that's the metaphor for our
But they
time.
pull it off.
To a point.
To a point.
And then the folks wake up.
Look, if something happens around 2012 of a magnitude that is unbelievable, I've got to say that the Mayans may have been told something. Because how else would they be able to pinpoint
There
that?
was a stunning piece of data that didn't make it into the show having to do with the burial of Pakal.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the big Mayan
Right.
super chief?
One of their gods, right?
What I'm going to show in Tempe is he was buried with two emblems that are unequivocally signatures of the hyperdimensional physics. One in his left hand, one in his right hand. The Mayanists haven't a clue what this means. When I found it in a book that I found at Tikal, which actually Robin found for me, lo and behold, there is the whole story. The Mayans know the physics. How they knew is a separate story.
That's the question. Next up, we go to Dallas, Texas. Dick, you're up with us on Coast to Coast. Hey, Richard, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah, I sit here in Dallas day after day, month after month, and watch them laying chemtrails in the sky. Yesterday, usually it's on clear days, initially clear. Yesterday, they were laying them above clouds.
And by the way, Tuesday, Dick, William Thomas, expert on chemtrails, will be my guest, just as a sidebar for you.
That is wonderful.
Is that my Monday appearance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, one isn't there a linkage between this and swine flu?
Well, now that's a good question. We don't know what. Tuesday, when Bill Thomas is on, I'll ask him that question.
Okay. Second, could you ask people in Dallas to call in or do something? I mean, I'm sitting here and I can't get anybody to look at the sky, and I'm just wondering whether there are other people in Dallas as outraged as I am.
Well, I'm sure they are outraged all around the country. We will, again, devote the entire program to chemtrails on Tuesday. I'm sure we'll get a lot of calls from Dallas. We'll go to Tucson next in Arizona. Richard, you're on with us on Coast to Coast. Hey, Richard.
Hey, George. How you doing? Hi, Robin.
Okay, we're all well.
Hi.
Good. I'm actually glad I got to get on the show. I'm a first-time caller, and I know there's a lot of people I want to share, so I'll try to make this brief. But I have kind of a question leading up for Robin. But basically, I'm 30 years old. I spent 26 years of my life in California. I moved out to Tucson, Arizona when I was 26. Perfect health my whole life, no problems. I didn't even think about doctors ever. All of a sudden, about a year and a half ago, my world just spun out of control. Like, I started gambling, I started drinking. My girlfriend had a miscarriage. We almost had a baby. It was 6 months, and then we lost it. And
Sorry to hear that.
you know, my whole life, like, all of a sudden, I started getting these symptoms of, like, my heart was racing, I was hyperventilating all the time, like, I felt like I was going to die.
Those are panic
And-
attacks.